Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Namaduhu nasali ala Rasul al-Kareem. Viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given examples in this life to explain to us what will happen in the next life. For example, if a child could communicate or people could communicate with a child in the womb of the mother and tells the child that when you come out into this world, you will see your mother, you will see your father, you will see the sun, you will see the stars, the moon, the rivers, the ocean, the mountains, fruits, crops, and so on and so forth. And the child says, I don't believe any of that because I don't see that. Although it is true that when the child comes out, the child will be able to see all these things with his eyes. Same is the condition with the human being. When he's in the womb of this earth, he's not able to see what comes afterwards. But the reality is that there is a world after this life. Another example is if supposing a person is trying to catch fish and he lowers a worm into the water and a fish comes and tries to catch that, and another fish comes and tells, don't go near that because behind this worm there is a hook, and behind the hook there is a line, and behind that there is a man, and behind that there's fire. So he'll catch you, pull you out of the water, and then he'll roast you and eat you. And the fish says, I don't believe that. I don't see the hook. I don't see the line. I don't see the man. I don't see the fire. But the reality is that is true. So in this life, there are things that people don't see. But the reality is different. And these are examples that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to make us explain to us the reality. Another example, let's assume there is a person who won a Nobel Prize in science, and he's looking at two people who are sleeping. Both of them are sleeping in two different beds. One of them is having a very good dream. In his dream, he's seeing that he's a king and he's surrounded by thousands of people, and he's just sitting on a throne of gold, and everybody is admiring him, and he's having a fabulous life. Whereas the other person on the other bed, he's also sleeping, and he's seeing a nightmare. He's seeing in the nightmare that he's being pursued by snakes and scorpions, and he's running and he's screaming, and he's having a horrible time. So after a while, both of these people get up, and this scientist who won the Nobel Prize, he asked one guy, he says, tell me what was happening. And he says, oh, I had a beautiful dream. I was watching and having a great time. And the other guy says, I was having a horrible time. And this scientist says, I didn't see any of that. I have no idea what you're talking about. But for both these people, what they were watching for that time was a reality. So in the same way, if we see what's in the grave, we see people are lying in their graves, and to us they seem like nothing is happening, just like we see the people are sleeping and we see that nothing is happening there. But the people who are in the grave, they are experiencing something, but it's not visible to the person who's watching them, no matter how intelligent, no matter how knowledgeable, no matter how great he is. He doesn't know what's going on. In the same way, this world is not telling the whole reality, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given examples to people to understand that there is something real coming. There was a time people used to think the earth was flat, and they realized it's not flat. There was a time people thought it was stationary, and they realized it's not. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives examples that even with your knowledge, you do not know enough. That's why Allah sent prophets and books. If people could know from their own observation all the reality, there was no need to send prophets and no need to send books. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this knowledge to the human being, the knowledge of the unseen, through his books and through his prophets, and told them their reality is coming, and you have to prepare for that. And if you don't prepare for that, you will be losers. This is a big test for the human being when they say, I don't believe in it because I don't see it. And of course, they don't realize there are many things they believe without seeing. If they give an example of a person who goes into a jungle, and he sees in the jungle there's a beautiful palace, and he didn't see when it was built, he didn't see who built it, but he knows from intelligence that somebody must have come here. Somebody must have built this, because it could not just happen by itself. And this life, of course, the universe that we see is far more complex, is far more advanced than a palace in a jungle. And when people give these arguments that this just happened by itself, human intelligence cannot understand that. So that human beings just evolved from apes, and over millions of centuries they came to a human form. And some people that show skulls of different people, different times living, and they say, well, this proves that it's all evolution, didn't happen by the creation of a creator. Now that again is one way of looking at it. But if this is true, then why there are so many millions and millions of apes and monkeys all over the world? Why did not evolve into human beings? And how does this explain the other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But it's a very simplistic, very, very childish way of looking at reality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives knowledge, and He says, your knowledge is limited. In order to succeed in this world, you have to listen to what I'm saying. Because you keep changing your facts, you keep changing your knowledge keeps changing, and you keep making mistakes. So human beings are very limited in everything. We can observe some things with our eyes, and with some technology we can observe more, but we still cannot observe everything in the universe. So no matter how advanced human beings are, they are not able to even observe with their eyes everything that exists. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is complete with regards to the past, with the future. He knows everything about everything. So the one who knows everything is telling the one who doesn't know that this is how you should live. So when a child is born, the parents teach the child that this is good for you, this is bad for you, and the child grows up under guidance, and if he's properly guided, the child gets benefit. So right now, people are just teaching the child according to their knowledge. Generally, people teach children according to their knowledge, that if you go to school, you go to college, you get this education, you'll get a good job, and you'll have a good life. So that's based on their experience and the experience of others. But the knowledge of the prophets is much greater than that. That knowledge is much more. And they are giving that knowledge for the benefit of humanity. And they don't charge any fees for that. They give it to them free. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves His creation. and He wants the creation to benefit, and He gives creation knowledge. So the knowledge of the world Allah gives to the creation through scientists, through people who have knowledge of this life, of this world. But He gives knowledge of the world to come through His prophets, through His books. And this is essential because later on in the next life, angels will ask people who are in the hellfire, did no warners come to you? Were you not warned? And people will say, yes, we were warned. But we laughed at these people, we made fun of these people because we didn't see all this. When they're given examples of a lot of people in this world who don't see but they believe others. And we know from personal experience that we trust other people who are the experts, whatever matter it is. We go to lawyers, we go to doctors, we go to accountants, we go to professionals. Why? Because of their knowledge, because we don't know, and we trust them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this world to make us understand, just like a teacher gives examples to the students. For example this, for example that. So Allah gives examples that this is how it works. And if you neglect this, if you ignore this knowledge, this is your loss. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a perfect system, a merit system. A merit system where you have to do something if you want to get the pleasures of paradise forever and ever. There is a struggle. This human being was created for that test. And who told us that? Not a scientist, not a philosopher. The Creator Himself told us that you were created for the test. And in order to pass the test, you have to believe in something which is coming. Just like a child doesn't believe what he doesn't see. But when he comes into the world, he starts believing. But that belief is belief on his eyes. He's believing his eyes. But luckily for the child, he's not being tested in the womb. He's not being tested with good or bad. But that's just an example from Allah to show us that there is a life beyond this. And that life, when we see that with our eyes, we will not be able to do anything. We will not be able to come back and say, oh Allah, please give me another chance. Now I will do what you wanted me to do, how to live my life. Because I lived my life in a way that was not pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like the fish went and got the worm because it was pleasing to the fish. Now the fish is stuck. And now the fish is being pulled out and it's being cooked. So the fish says, I want to go back to the ocean now that I know the reality. I've seen it with my eyes. It's too late. It can't go back into the ocean now. The same way, the human being cannot come back into this life and start all over again. Why? This knowledge is important. It's important because this is for the future of a human being. The eternity depends on that. Human beings listen to others for their success. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is for your success. This is for your eternity. If you want to live a good life, if you want to live a happy life, a contented life, a life which is good for you and others, this is the path of that. If everybody is connected to Allah and they're doing things pleasing to Allah, then they will be connected to each other also. Otherwise, there will be chaos, just like in a jungle. Every animal, they're protecting just their own kind. The lions are with the lions, and the elephants are with the elephants, the buffaloes are with the buffaloes, and the snakes are with the snakes. So all these communities, they are fighting with each other for survival. And whichever is stronger wins. Human beings are not designed for that struggle. But if they live just like animals, then this is what's going to happen. As has been said before, the human being has part of the animal, but also has a part of the angel. It's a combination. There's a material part and there's a spiritual part. And then he's also a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he's also a representative of Rasulullah. So he has 4 different roles, so to speak. A role of an animal, role of an angel, role as a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, role of a representative of Rasulullah. When there's a balance in all this, then life goes on beautifully and successfully. But if it's just imbalance, we're just living, performing the role of an animal as most people do, then there is going to be conflict. It'll be conflict like in a state of jungle, fighting each other, killing each other. There will be constant turmoil. And if he just lives like an angel, then he's not being tested properly. If he's doing ibadah all the time, he's in salat all the time, he's doing zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering, then he's not leading a balanced life, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a challenge, a test to fulfill his needs, but needs in the right way, not in the wrong way. Because the animal is not restricted, whereas a human being has rules which he has to follow. So if he living on the animal level, even there he has to make sure that he is not satisfying his needs by transgressing the limits imposed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there has to be a balance. And of course, as the representative of Allah, as the Khalifa of Allah, he has the guidance as to how that balance is to be achieved, how he has to show concern, kindness, etc. This is not something which is expected of animals. And as a representative of Rasulullah, he has the responsibility to carry this message to the others. Because most people at any given time are not aware of this. They have to be brought, just like a child is not aware. He learns A, B, C, D, and learns 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. He comes totally ignorant. And he has to be taught the basic. He has to start with the beginning. He has to start with the alphabet. And then he grows and gets more knowledge of the material world. In similar way, he has to be taught about the unseen world, the spiritual side of life. He has to be taught about the angels. He has to be taught about heaven and hell. So that knowledge can only come not from scientists. It can only come from the books of Allah, from the prophets. And that knowledge is just as, if not more important, at least just as important as the knowledge of the material world. Because when the material world ends, when he dies, that knowledge that he acquired, even if he won 10 Nobel Prizes and he made millions and billions of dollars, he's not going to have any benefit of that in the grave. All that will be lost. So the balanced life, the question is, what is a balanced life? A balanced life is, for a human being, that he knows how to combine his different roles in a way that his physical, material needs are also being met, are also being taken care of. At the same time, his spiritual side is not being lost. So the balanced life means living like a human being and not just like living an animal. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the understanding as to what is a balanced life. Wa akhirat dawana in alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.